Hey there, and welcome to part 2 of exploring Sam Allardyce's time as manager of Bolton Wanderers. Last time out, we saw how Big Sam won promotion with the club, brought in many new innovations off the pitch, and narrowly avoided relegation for 2 successive seasons. This time, we'll be looking at how Bolton progressed under Big Sam, and went from battling relegation to fighting for the Champions League spots in a matter of seasons. Welcome to Red Mist. I'm your host, Joseph Murray, and this is part 2 of Big Sam at Bolton Wanderers. Before we go any further, if you could please like the video as it goes a long way to supporting the channel. And if you like what you see, make sure you subscribe to Red Mist and have notifications on so you don't miss out on future videos. Now let's get back to it.
You are watching a master at work.
As we saw last time, Bolton's budget was much smaller than a lot of teams in the Premier League at the time. And this was still the case even though Bolton were about to begin their 3rd season in the league. Because of this, Bolton tried to avoid risks in the transfer market and mainly signed players on short-term loans. But after another season of only just avoiding relegation, Big Sam felt that a change was needed so the club could grow long-term and push up the table. As part of this change in strategy, Bolton started to sign players on permanent deals, rather than cutting costs and avoiding risks by filling their squad with players on short-term loans. This was predominantly done by the means of free transfers. The summer of 2003 saw Ivan Campo's loan move from Real Madrid made permanent, and the arrival of Mario Jardel on a free. Jardel was a Brazilian striker who had an obscene scoring record in Portugal and Turkey, averaging around a goal a game for Porto, Galatasaray and Sporting. Unfortunately, Jardel's move didn't work due to his party lifestyle, and he only made 7 league appearances for the club before being shipped off to Goiás in Brazil a season later. Despite Jardel being a disappointment, the free transfers of Stelios Yiannakopoulos from Olympiacos and Kevin Davies from Southampton surely made up for it. Stelios was a prolific right winger in the Greek league and went on to become a fan favourite for Bolton, scoring 26 goals across 5 seasons, while Davies would eventually become Bolton's club captain, making over 400 appearances across 10 seasons and scoring 84 goals. He also set the Premier League record for most fouls committed in the season, twice.
Perfect.
After their successful summer window, Bolton were starting to push up the table rather than fighting relegation, and the 2003 to 2004 season was much more comfortable for them in the league, as they managed a solid 8th place finish. They also reached the League Cup final after 2 Okocha free kicks in a 5-4 aggregate win over Aston Villa in the semi-finals. This was the first time Big Sam had reached a major final in his career, and he celebrated his achievement by treating himself to a glass of champagne and his favourite sandwich of fish fingers and cheese. I really wish I was making that up. Unfortunately, Big Sam's men were beaten 2-1 by Middlesbrough in the final, denying them a trophy and a spot in the UEFA Cup, which was the equivalent of today's Europa League. Determined to prove that their successful season wasn't just a one-off, Big Sam once again attempted to secure big talent for small prices before the 2004 to 2005 season. To do this, Big Sam went after ageing stars who still had plenty to offer. Bolton signed 34-year-old Gary Speed from Newcastle and Real Madrid and Spain legend Fernando Hierro. Hierro was 36 and playing for Al Rayyan in Qatar, but it was still seen as a massive signing for Bolton. He had been ever present at the heart of Real's defence for 14 seasons, scored 124 goals and won countless trophies domestically and in Europe. But he was happy to move to Bolton to experience the Premier League and so his children could learn English. Despite concerns about his age, Hierro played a significant part in the single season he spent at Bolton before retiring. He made 29 league appearances and 15 of them came as a starter. Initially, he struggled playing at centre-back, but after a while he moved into midfield, which was where he flourished. Dictating play and calming the game down, Big Sam even went on to describe him as the best passer in the league. Bolton's summer business did not stop there. Yuri Djorkaeff was released after failing to agree to a new contract. They also signed centre-backs Radi Jaidi and Tal Benhaim for cut-price fees, as well as Senegalese forward El Hadj Diouf on loan from Liverpool. Diouf had joined Liverpool from Lens in 2002 for £10 million after impressing at the World Cup, but failed to live up to expectations and fell out with pretty much everyone there, particularly after spitting at a Celtic fan in a UEFA Cup game at Parkhead. Nevertheless, he went on to be a success at Bolton, staying there for 4 seasons before leaving for Sunderland in 2008. All of these signings, combined with the momentum that had been built up after the previous season's 8th place finish, saw Bolton go even further in the league. They got some big results, notably 1-0 wins over Arsenal and Liverpool, finished 6th and qualified for the UEFA Cup. Of course, Big Sam's tactics of hard tackling and long balls didn't sit well with some managers, particularly Arsene Wenger and Rafa Benitez. But Big Sam shrugged off the criticism and even admitted that he enjoyed winding up opposition managers. Besides, this was the first time Bolton had qualified for Europe in their history, so he was clearly doing something right on the pitch, as well as off it, where innovations were continuously being made. The summer window prior to their first season in Europe saw few arrivals at Bolton, but the one noteworthy player that did join was Japanese attacking midfielder Hidetoshi Nakata on loan from Fiorentina. Nakata was arguably the most famous Asian footballer at the time, and Bolton were possibly trying to expand their global appeal by signing him, but the benefits he brought on the pitch, such as vision, strength on the ball, and exceptional passing, were just as important. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out for Nakata at Bolton. He failed to nail down a first team place and retired the following summer aged just 29, but he deserves a mention, purely because his signing encapsulates the ambition that Big Sam and Bolton showed during this era. Despite his lack of impact, the signing of Nakata added even more quality to this Bolton team, and ensured that they were well worthy of their place in the UEFA Cup. Their first test in the competition came in the form of Bulgarian side Lokomotiv Plovdiv in the qualifying round. Bolton beat them 4-2 on aggregate and booked their place in the group stages, where the standard of opponent was considerably higher. Bolton were drawn in a tough group with Sevilla, Zenit St. Petersburg, Besiktas and Vitória de Guimarães of Portugal. Back then, the group stage consisted of 5 teams who played each other once, with the top 3 teams qualifying. And Bolton went on to finish 3rd in the group, going unbeaten as they drew 3 and won 1. One of those draws came against Sevilla, who eventually went on to win the competition. At the time, Sevilla had the likes of Jesus Navas, Dani Alves, Luis Fabiano and many more big names in their squad. While most of these players did not feature in the game, getting a point against the team who would go on to win the tournament was a massive credit to Bolton, and proved that they were well worth their place in the competition. Unfortunately for Bolton, finishing 3rd place meant that they would have to face the winners of another group in the first knockout round, and that team was Marseille. At the time, Marseille's team contained talents such as Franck Ribéry, Mamadou Niang and Samir Nasri. It was a tough draw, but Bolton and Big Sam were well used to defying expectations by this stage.
Any ideas?
The first leg of the tie was a frustrating 0-0 draw at the Reebok. Bolton missed chances and were denied a penalty after a clear handball decision wasn't given. But a week later, they went away to France and took the game to Marseille. They took an early 1-0 lead through Stelios, and the away goal rule meant that Marseille would have to score twice to knock them out. Unfortunately, that's exactly what Marseille did. Ribéry scored a header and Tal Benhaim scored an own goal as Big Sam's men fell to a 2-1 defeat. They were out of the competition, but the fact that they had made it to Europe was an achievement in itself. But in the league, they failed to build on their previous season, finishing 8th and missing out on a UEFA Cup spot. There was also disruption behind the scenes, as Big Sam was approached by both England and Newcastle about becoming their new manager, eventually missing out on both.
Perfect.
Aiming to bounce back from the overall disappointment of that season, Big Sam wanted to kick on even further in the 2006-2007 season and set his sights on Champions League qualification. And it initially appeared as though the club wanted to match his ambition. Nicolas Anelka was signed from Fenerbahce for a club record £8 million, and after 21 games, Bolton sat 3rd in the league. But Big Sam knew that they needed signings if they wanted to stay where they were. He went to the board to request funds in the January window, but was told that there was no money available. Bolton failed to make any meaningful signings, and it ultimately cost them as they ended up finishing 6th and missed out on the Champions League places. Big Sam became so frustrated by the lack of ambition that he decided that his time at the club was finished, and resigned in April 2007. Big Sam wasn't out of work for long though. He was appointed as the Newcastle manager in May, but only lasted half a season there before being sacked in January 2008. Since then, Big Sam has become a bit of a Premier League journeyman, taking charge of Blackburn, West Ham, Sunderland, Crystal Palace, Everton and West Brom, as well as his 1-game spell in charge of England, where he was forced to resign after becoming embroiled in a scandal. But that's another story. And there we have it. That was my best attempt at summarising Big Sam's long history with Bolton Wanderers. In my opinion, it was probably his best managerial stint in terms of longevity and success. We've seen him take over clubs and have decent success, but I don't think to that level, and certainly not for that amount of time. Probably the only comparison you could make is maybe West Ham, but he never really got them to the same heights he got Bolton. But yeah, anyway, if you think there's been anything that I've missed out, or anything you think is important, please let me know in the comments. And if you'd like to see more content like this, please like the video, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on so you don't miss a future video. And if you know anyone that really enjoys football content, or maybe just really likes Big Sam, make sure to share this video with them. Anyways, I've been Joseph from Red Mist. This has been Big Sam's time at Bolton Wanderers, and thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.